hardship score Buhari governor's law on welfare. With riders, high cost of living has made nonsense of minimum wage, 40% pay raise, unions. Pensioners still earning 500, 750 naira monthly. Economy harsh under Buhari, says retirees. Let me quickly go to the leadership paper before Kingsley comes in. And above the masthead, bandits abduct many, injure others in Niger State. You find the details on page 18. Election Tribunal, NLC threatens to shame corrupt judges. You find the details on page 6. And 61st posthumous birthday, associates reflect on Sam Ndayazaya's big ideas. With riders, youth urge federal government to confer national honor on the late publisher. Find the details on page 9. May Day, Lawan Bajabia Mila Atiku salute Nigerian workers. Details on page 9. Thanks National Assembly leadership, Lawan Akpabio at war over Senate presidency. With riders plot to change Senate rules to accommodate Oshomole Tickens. Tinubu may opt for former Edo governor. And Lawan leading campaign against Midas coming from Akpabio. You find the details all on page 4. And dealers kick over fresh taxes on Tokumbo vehicles. Others, you find details on page 29. APC crisis. Legal advisor asks Adamu to expel Lukman. Details on page 6. And Abore, Apapa continue fight over Labour Party leadership. You find details on page 10. Kingsley.
Okay, we also have Vanguard newspaper this morning, and above the nameplate, 2 headlines. OPS, that's Organized Private Sector, urges federal government to suspend proposed new taxes. Sudan, 637 Nigerians arrive Egyptian border. Envoy assures parents and students. Late story is on Labor Day, and it says May Day with a kicker. It's been terrible and agonizing for workers. That's according to the NLC. As workers in oil, electricity, maritime, and other sectors grieve over continuous misery, poverty, and hopelessness. Ask government to address poverty, insecurity, unemployment, inflation, and high cost of living. Set agenda for incoming government. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Federal government apologizes over failure to meet deadline. Southeast governors and Igbo leaders inaugurate Iwanyanwu as new Ohanese President General. Inflation, high interest rates drive stock market loss to 1.01 trillion naira in April. Market loses over 70% of Q1 gains. That's the first gains in the first quarter. Analysts disagree on outlook for May. 17 buildings marked for demolition in Anambra for harboring gunmen. No plans to phase out redesigned Naira notes. That's according to the central bank. Chukudi.
Thank you, Kingsley. It's May Day, so we started by wishing workers happy May Day. The circumstances have not been terribly, bearable, or, one day could sit smugly and smile about. It's been tough for everyone, not just workers. They are saying it's been terrible, agonizing. That's the headline in the Vanguard here. Oil, electricity, maritime, other sectors grieve over continuous misery. Look at the word they use, misery. Can't go below that, can you? Poverty, hopelessness. They're asking government to address poverty, insecurity, unemployment, inflation, high cost of living. Definitely, there are a lot of things that need to be done for Nigerian workers. We have this practice or attitude of jumping to more money in our pocket. More money could be in your pocket. If the micro, let's leave the macro now, if the microeconomic indices surrounding you are not very good, that big money you think you have in your pocket could actually vaporize. It could just vanish that way. So the environment of work, the market environment and every bit of it would matter to, or would be relevant to the welfare of the Nigerian worker. We talk about money, we talk about welfare. What about The state of the worker himself within the work environment. How many workers still enjoy in-service training? You know, Nigerians are very good on very long certificates and all that. But do you know that the in-service training actually ranks uppermost when it comes to on-the-job learning? Are workers still getting that? The tools of their work, trade. How easy is it for them to come by the things they need to make their job easier? How safe is the work environment? All these should matter as well. So we wish the authorities all it takes to make workers have a better deal. And when we say the authorities, we actually also refer to the OPS, the organized private sector. It is not just the federal government that employs workers. We are talking about workers wherever they are located on the face of this country. We wish them well as they go into another cycle that will take them to another May 1. Happily, the suspension of the removal of fuel subsidy, it should be something that would sweeten should sweeten the hearts of Nigerians and workers, because it means that we are not contemplating an inflationary, you know, the inflation is already there, but we're not contemplating a skyrocketing of inflationary trends. Now, the other one I would like to add to this, if you're not saying anything yet, is the situation in Sudan. Talk is there that another 72-hour ceasefire is being arranged or has been arranged. The situation in Sudan, not just Khartoum anymore, is spread to the hinterland, just like in the days of the Janjaweed militia. Remember that the Rapid Support Forces had actually had a hand in Darfur in those days. The Janjaweed militia, he was very much part of it. But let's go to
They burnt the central bank.
Yeah.
Yesterday, last night.
It's actually a festering sore. It's not just the central bank that will be threatened. It's going to begin to... You see, when hostilities set in, at a stage, particularly when the enemy or your opponent is beginning to have the upper hand, you begin to think of the dictum, all's fair in war. Whatever tools you engage to accost the enemy becomes fair. But let's remember that there is such a thing as the International Criminal Court in The Hague.
But, you know, people
there are rules of engagement.
Yeah, people must also realize that in a war situation is a lose-lose situation.
It is a lose-lose situation for everyone. That's the country itself. Yes. The evacuation, well, I like the caution that the Nigerian ambassador to the Republic of Sudan, that's Safi Olanio, is giving to stranded Nigerian students. Look at what he says here. I want to assure you that we are as vulnerable as you are, and will not leave until all of you have been moved to safety and to Nigeria. That is reassuring. Just the other day, we were talking about the need for gratitude. It could have been worse. We're not saying we couldn't improve on what has been done to evacuate them, but then it could have been worse. So we thank God for small mercies.
Students were taken there by state government on scholarship to study in Sudan.
Yes.
I hear a resounding silence from the state government. Nothing is coming out of them. They sent these students there to read, but the state government is not saying anything. What efforts are they trying to make so that they can work in conjunction with the federal government to ease the tension right now in Sudan?
You know, the tendency is for us to sweep everything into the corridor of the foreign affairs ministry, because the states don't have a foreign affairs ministry and all that. But you have a point. Support can come in other shapes. It doesn't have to be something that happens at the embassy level and all that. Fine, they are going to definitely be the spearhead of whatever happens. But the states can announce, you know, cash donations to the effort and all that. The other time they were talking about exorbitant, they were even talking in dollars, not naira, to ferret yourself from one side of the border to the other. People were talking about $30,000. I said, is it the dollars that occasionally comes to me, and I want to keep it in my box for as much
Aren't
as...
you lucky you see the dollars anyway?
You know,
I read a report at the weekend suggesting that some state governments, Borno, Jigawa, and Kaduna, I think, had managed to get some of their students out of Sudan. How that was achieved, I wasn't clear in the report.
okay.
But we did have a conversation on this issue last week, and one of our guests, Professor Dikwa from Maiduguri, did point out that, of course, there are long-standing social and cultural ties.
Yes, more than 1,000 years.
Between Nigeria and Sudan.
More than 1,000
We
years.
also had Dr. Imam, Mukhtar Imam, who is an international relations expert, pointing out the long-standing relations that people have had, an affinity. So it's possible that some of these persons managed to take unusual routes and then get themselves to safety.
Yes.
That's one. I think that it is in a time of crisis that sometimes you get to know who your true friends are,
But that's
particularly on the international scene.
Yes.
The Nigerian government must ask the question, how warm are our relations with Egypt?
And Ethiopia.
How warm are our relations with Egypt? At the beginning of the crisis, when some Nigerian students sought to flee Sudan, and they went to the to the Ethiopian border, they were turned back on the ground that they had no visa. And the Nigerian authorities, including NITCOM, Abike Dabiri, she was on our program, who advised that they should return because the Nigerian government was planning scheduled evacuation of Nigerians, and did say that a number of 40 buses had been procured and were going to take them on a long journey to the Egyptian border. Now they are there at the Egyptian border, and they are stranded, and then you are asking for visa in a war situation, and you are asking pay so much, pay so much, pay so much. Look at what is happening on the other hand. The Saudi authorities have been providing ferry services.
Oh, yes.
From the port of Sudan to Jeddah.
A warship
Yes, to
came in
To Jeddah.
yes.
And taking these persons, there are many persons now who have crammed the port of Sudan, just waiting to take advantage of those ferry services. And those being evacuated by the Saudi authorities are not all Saudis.
They are not.
They're not.
There are nationalities.
Yes.
So why is Egypt doing what it is doing? Is Egypt a member of the AU? Would you allow citizens from other parts of the African continent to undergo the kind of hardship that they are suffering now at your border because of processing issues and so on and so forth? When this was happening, after war broke out between Russia and Ukraine by the Polish authorities and the other countries bordering Poland in the dead of the winter, and everybody said, no, this was racist, this was racist. So how do we describe what is happening now in Egypt? Is it economic consideration? The Nigerian authorities, of course, it is not all diplomatic efforts that are disclosed in terms of news reports. We believe, and we should believe, that the Nigerian government is working with the Egyptian authorities to get this out. The situation in Sudan is worsening by the day. They had the second 72-hour ceasefire that was breached flagrantly. Yesterday, again, they agreed to another 72-hour ceasefire, and everybody is certain that again will be breached. To tell you how dire the situation is, Canada, which had been trying to evacuate its citizens, has now suspended evacuation because it says the flights out of Sudan have become very dangerous.
It's deteriorating every second.
So
and you said something.
You know, Sudan is like the umbilical cord of Africa to link up to other areas around the world. Now, even the Hajj process itself that is supposed to start in a few months, if this crisis escalates, they have to look for a different route to Saudi Arabia. Yes, yes.
Great point there.
Yes.
And Kingsley, you said something. You are being harsh, you're throwing a harsh attitude at the students at the border there. And these are your fellow Africans.
Yes.
How far away are the students from a refugee status? That's it.
The Americans snatched their diplomats and took them to Djibouti,
Yes.
which is nearby. So if Djibouti gave safe passage to others, Saudi Arabia is organizing on. So how many students are there? Can you not just process them and say, okay, this is how much we are going to take from you, and then you sort it out later? And the students are there, they are stranded, and
They are stranded, they are hungry, they eat once a day.
These are the points
Yes.
that
They run out of money.
Yes.
when you analyze African politics and African diplomacy, you just see the challenges.
And this is the
Around
period
generally.
for the sandstorm. You know, it's terrible during the sandstorm, and it could occur at any moment in time.
So we do hope that the Nigerian authorities will continue to press for this, to be sure that Nigerians are evacuated from that tough situation. Now, again, another lesson for warmongers in Nigeria to learn.
Yes.
No, the international community is not coming to take out Sudanese inside Sudan. They are taking out first their nationals.
Yes.
So when war breaks out, this one is a conflict, and if it's not properly handled, it could well then become another civil war.
It affects the
Because
whole
you
of
have
Africa.
It affects. Well, first in Sudan, they will ruin themselves
Yes.
and ruin their infrastructure.
People are intoning the Libyan scenario already.
Precisely.
Yes, and they're just recovering after 20-something years of civil war before
So
they now
it's-
separated and got their independence.
It's really unfortunate.
It's
Two
really,
things-
really unfortunate.
Two things to point out. So sometimes in public affairs in Nigeria, you make your points and then you leave it, and then you allow reason to prevail. The federal government, through the president, and of course announced by the Minister of Information, took a most wise decision on Friday in announcing the postponement of the census exercise that was due to begin on Wednesday this week. We had said it last year. That said the timing was not auspicious. You had a number of crowded national activities. We're just out of the elections, and you can see the nation's mood. You could even hear comments of some persons who were disinterested in the census. You could also hear nobody was even excited. Not much excitement in the air for the census, and yet people kept pushing, and we had been, how many public holidays did we have in April? Today is a public holiday. And they expected the president to declare public holidays again from Wednesday to Friday, and then you conclude it. So they were just pushing ahead, and as if, conclude it, produce an interim report to go and give to President Buhari, because he's the one that initiated this process and is leaving office, will do an interim report. What is worth doing is worth doing well. And there was no need for the stampede. The president, under President Muhammadu Buhari, the process for the census has started. And take a cue from the attitude of the Buhari administration. Look, it is not just only in infrastructure. The president said, we will focus on completing ongoing and previously abandoned projects.
Yes.
Ongoing, Second Niger Bridge, local Oweto Bridge, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. So why the stampede to do everything, every pre-enumeration, and then census under Buhari, so give it to him that it was on under his time. History will record that the preparation, which is critical, you don't prepare for a census in 1 month or in 2 days or in 3 days. The preparation started under his administration,
Yes,
completed by, it doesn't really matter, whose name is attached to it.
Yes.
It is a national purpose.
Exactly.
That's right. I know we are about to sign off. Last night, I read it in the afternoon, not in the night, so I'm on one of them. The White Witches and Wizards Association issued a statement from Calabar in Cross River State, saying that they will offer full protection to the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to ensure that his inauguration on the 29th of May is successful.
What kind of support?
They have said they will offer support. They have also called on Dino Melaye in Kogi to reach out to them if he wants to be successful in the Kogi governorship election later in the year. So that is the White Witches and Wizards.
They want him to eat witchcraft too.
Kingsley,
I read the story in the afternoon, not in the night.
Kingsley, sometimes your humor could actually tend towards the diabolical. You remember Bohon in Benin City in those days?
That's right.
3 days of, God knows, the kind of misty weather and all that.
Yes.
Our eyes were hurting to the brains.
Wow.
You know?
don't bring Benin to this one.
No, I'm not
this one is coming from Calabar.
Well,
they are offering
it happened
Bola
to me when I was in
Ahmed
Benin.
Yeah, they are offering Bola Ahmed Tinubu safety and security.
You
How they will
can't
do it.
run away from the fact that we know what happens in Benin. We should be there.
Yeah, you know, it's the center of culture, but this one is coming from Calabar. But the only question to ask, that is the footnote, is if these guys are so efficacious, why have they not gone to Sambisa or the whole? Why have they not gone to Zamfara?
Some of Africa's habits.
Okay, Chukwudi, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
On this hilarious note, I say thank you again.
Thank you.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a break. When we return, our conversation on May Day celebration will begin. Do stay.
All I need to say about the second River Niger Bridge, 21 years ago, as I came onto this throne,